So I don't think we have to click again. So we can just,
We're ready.
we can just dive right back into it. So
Wonderful.
yeah, so anyhow, we were talking about a virtual snow day, and we actually did have a virtual snow day down here last week, right, Ms.
It
Ella?
was last week. It was. I was surprised. I was like, wow, virtual snow day.
We didn't have a virtual snow day. We
Uh,
clients and kids went to school and everything.
Wow.
mhm.
Yep.
But it's okay.
Yep.
That's okay.
But life in the South, you know,
That's right. And it is winter.
it is winter. Yeah, exactly.
It is. And as I said, we're fortunate, I guess, in the sense that in Richmond, it, it snows a whole lot on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, it melts away.
Yep,
That works
exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right, ladies, well, let us dive into it. I am so happy that you were both able to join me today on this EDGI Talk.
Yeah.
We've been trying to arrange this since last semester, but everybody's just been so busy.
Mhm.
So here we are.
Yeah.
So everyone, I'm Dr. Cindy Bulik. I am the moderator of these EDGI Talks and the principal investigator of the Eating Disorders Genetics Initiative. And I'm really excited to have Charlynn Small and Mazella Fuller with me here today. And as usual, so I get it right, I'm gonna read my introductions and then we're just gonna dive into conversation. So Charlynn, I'm gonna start with you. So Dr. Small is a licensed clinical psychologist, and she's assistant director for health promotions at the University of Richmond. You can see her sweater. University of Richmond's Counseling and Psychological Services, or their CAP services in Virginia. She got her PhD from Howard University School of Education. She advocates for awareness of eating disorders affecting Black women, persons of color, and other underrepresented groups. She is a member of the board of directors of the International Association of Eating Disorders Professionals Foundation, or IADEP. And she's a certified member and approved supervisor of IADEP as well. Charlynn co-founded the foundation's African American Eating Disorders Professionals Committee and has served on the advisory board for the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders. She is also co-founder of the Institute for Anti-Racism and Equity in Mental Health. Welcome, Dr. Small.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. And now, Dr. Fuller. Dr. Fuller is a staff social worker at CAPS and clinical associate in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Duke University. She graduated from Smith College School for Social Work and completed her clinical training at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She holds a doctorate degree in human services. Dr. Fuller is also a certified member of IADEP, and her clinical focus areas are brief individual and student developmental framework, couples, gender and social justice, equity and inclusion, as well as women's leadership development. Welcome, Dr. Fuller.
Thank you. So my pleasure.
Now, the real reason I have both of these women with me here today is this book. So together, Dr. Small and Dr. Fuller wrote Treating Black Women with Eating Disorders, a Clinician's Guide. And as soon as I saw this book, I don't remember where I saw it. It popped up when I was searching something on Amazon, and I said, I gotta buy that book. And then I read the book and I said, I gotta interview these women. So that's how we came to this EDGI Talk today. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here and part of this conversation.
Awesome. So the floor is yours. I want you to take me back to how the two of you met, since you're in different states, and what the journey was that brought you together to put this incredible book together.
Well, I always tell this part, so I'll start.
She loves it and she does a wonderful job, and I'll just echo her later.
Mazella and I were at a conference, an eating disorders conference, and I don't know, can you say?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, okay, so we were at Renfrew, and we were sitting at a table, one of the opening dinners or whatever, and someone introduced us. Mazella, it was one of Mazella's co-workers at the time, and I was speaking with her, and she said, "Oh, do you know Mazella Fuller?" And I said, "I do not." And we met and talked, and the more we talked, things just seemed to mesh. As it turns out, she and I attended the same undergraduate institution, Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina. And we were both there at the same time,
Wow.
but never did our paths cross. I was a freshman, she was an upperclassman, and we were there together. And we knew at that moment this we were brought here for a purpose. We knew that we were. We both were very passionate about this thing we do, treating persons with eating disorders. And of course, we are particularly interested in treating Black women with eating disorders. We both work at predominantly white colleges, and we have Black women on our campuses who have some issues that are very different from many experiences of a lot of other persons and a lot of other Black persons. And we just each had that in common. And it was just a marriage made in heaven from that point forward. We would talk to anybody that would listen to us talk, and she is my talking partner, and we just do what we do. I always say we're a duet. You know, we're a 1-2.
Right. Yeah.
I set them up, Mazella knocks them down.
We're quite a duo, Cindy. And you know, it's just it was just meant to be, we think, because we had so many shared values around just the lived experiences of Black women in general, right? And then, you know, so we went to the same sort of undergrad. We're in our professional identities. We're at university counseling centers. We're working with a lot of Black women in terms of their pursuit of degrees at these elite universities. And so it was, you know, it was like we could almost complete each other's sentences, and because we were like, wow, yeah. So it was just wonderful. It was, and we're really gracious in supporting each other. We have so much to share and so much to talk about in terms of our career paths and working with young women, especially Black women. So there you go.
It's amazing when it clicks like that.
That's true. So true.
We have so much in common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A wonderful human being, and I really enjoy my
yeah, we're like now sisters, really, right?
Right.
Just have, you know, we have different moms and different family constellations, but we really, you know, we cherish and value each other. We both, you know, run our research against our thoughts, our whatever we're thinking. Let's just share that and you know, and continue to grow in the field of eating disorders as well.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, when I read the book, when I first got the book, I wasn't sure what to expect. And when I opened it up, I realized there wasn't just, you know, one voice. There wasn't just two voices, the two of you, but there were so many Black voices in that book that just made it such a rich compendium.
Yes.
Can you just talk a little bit about how you found all these authors and how you decided what to put in the book and how to bring them all together into this volume?
Mm-hmm.
You want to?
I'll take a stab, and I know Dr. Small will join in, but I just think we wanted to amplify the voices of all Black women, whether it was our clients or patients or professional peers in the academy or not in the academy. Some of these authors, contributors are friends of ours, or we have worked with them in the academy. And, you know, and the platform and centering Black women and their voices. And all of us have contact with women, you know, whether you're a psychiatrist, or a clinician, you're a professor. So, and you're right. And thank you for highlighting, Cindy, because that is that's some of the feedback, but certainly the anthology of all these powerful voices. I mean, I think that's why people are like, how did you come up with that? And, you know, collecting, and because when you think about our community as Black women, we are the collective, right? We do focus on community. it is about shared vision and collectivism. So the book just sort of is part of our culture. So I'll let Dr. Small in, but that's just I'm just so excited about that we could amplify the voices of many, many incredible women.
Well, and you said basically what there is to be said. There's not a whole lot more. We have this community of people, co-workers, friends, persons who are professionals, and every one of our contributors works with, has treated Black women with eating disorders. Some of them dealt with their own struggles, and so we certainly needed to hear from them. And then, of course, there is Becky Thompson, who wrote our foreword, and she is just a marvelous human being. And we thought of her because she's really the first person who started talking about the fact that Black women too are impacted by this eating disorders thing. She was really the first person to write about it in terms of coping strategies for some of the things that we're dealing with that a lot of other people do not encounter. The racism and cultural stress and those things. And I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But it's largely, well, she was certainly the impetus for.
Oh yeah, major influencer, right?
Right.
Especially her work around women of color, and her book, her book, A Hunger So Wide and So Deep, and the trauma aspect too. So she was certainly an influencer in us. And we were so fortunate that she did write forward for the book.
So let's go down that path a little bit because, as a white woman, reading the book really it forced me to broaden my perspective and think about things in different ways and think about all of the patients of color that I've had in the past. And, it made me question, what I've done and what I've not done right, what I have done right, what I could do better. And I love any book that makes me do that, right? So y'all succeeded in making me examine my own work. So thank you. But what are some of the messages in the book that you are passionate about, that you really want to have people out in the field hear?
I can start. I want to go back a minute and talk in terms of what inspired us to do this thing. It's all of the reasons that you outlined, that everyone runs around saying that, eating disorders affect everyone and they don't discriminate and so forth. Yet Black women have not been included in the clinical trials. We've not been included in the standardization and validity of the extant measures and those things that are used to assess for symptoms and risk factors and so forth. So we really needed to let people know we're out here and that there are some alternative methods for assessment, because it just had to be done. And the results, the response to the book is one of the things that continues to inspire us. When we see young Black women pick up the book and they look at it and they read through it, they say, oh my goodness, you're talking about me. I didn't know that this was a thing, and now I can put, a name on it. This thing has, been plaguing me for all of this time, and I'm thinking, oh, I must be crazy, but no, it's a real thing. So it's been a very wonderful experience, and I have lots and lots of takeaways, but I'm not going to hold the conversation. Let me hear from Mazella because I know she does as well.
Well, we're passionate, Cindy, about the book but lots of reasons, right? Obvious representation. It's a Black book out there for Black women, which is very rare, and more are coming and emerging. But it's still, we're waiting, hopeful, always hopeful. And so you're right. The book addresses biases, right, in access to care, comprehensive assessments, medical distrust, right, and mistrust, if you will, because of the Henrietta Laxes of the world, eugenics, Tuskegee, and stereotypes about we can endure more pain, or you show up in a plus size body and you're only told to go lose weight as a Black woman versus to appreciate in that body size and really getting to know a narrative unfolding about what this person is showing up for. So that's why the book is out there. And every chapter from chapter 1 through chapters 20, it's a primer, right? Like you said, Cindy, when you read it, you can see, look at all these people coming at it from their own personal struggles with an eating disorder and oppressive external barriers around isms, right? Classism, racism, sexism, to someone is at a deaf school, Gallaudet, right? So you and someone that's from Jamaica.
Yep.
So is we and it was intentionality, and it was a lot of hard work and a lot of editing and re-editing and persuading people who are, because these people are multi talented individuals who are very, very busy.
Yep.
And I have to say, Charlynn and I feel so blessed and favored that they believed in us and trusted us enough to go down that path with us, because they were being pulled. As you can see, these are not early development, early career people. These are quite established, and we wanted to make sure we covered the age, from quite established to early career, moving up the path. So we try to address all of those in a very personal way, because you can sit down and read the book. You can have a book club with the book with your peers. You can so it's so many, and they are, with people are having book clubs. We're invited to some of those. Some people are just having it on their own. We're platforms like yours to EDGI Talks. We're surprised that we're good to be part of this, because this elevates all of us and get people wanting to be part of the conversation and build community around eating disorders.
Absolutely, particularly when so many of us are affected by it, and we didn't know. And you asked about takeaways. One of the main things that I want people to understand is that we Black women, we are not monolithic.
Oh, no.
We are not, and you can gather that just by the you use the word kaleidoscope of fabulous persons who contributed to the project. We're not monolithic, and when assessing us, you got to do some things a little bit different than the exit measures and the paint by number cookie cutter approach that you mentioned. These things don't always capture the myriad complex issues affecting Black women that make us vulnerable to eating disorders. You've got to ask the hard questions. These are the questions that are going to help therapists to gather sufficient data to be able to recognize and acknowledge the larger historical perspectives that are, you know, a big source of our issues with food and the impact of our body image. And Mazella talked some about Henrietta Lacks and Tuskegee and those kinds of things. And you really have to discuss, you have to ask the hard questions. Many times, like Mazella said, you go to the physician and you're in this larger body, and the first thing you're told is, well, you need to lose some weight and exercise more, and we don't want you to be diabetic. And okay, those things are true. You need to assess for diabetes, but you gotta wonder about, why is this person in a very large body?
Yep.
You've got to do it. You've got to ask these very difficult questions, and that's not happening. People are afraid. I don't know, afraid that you're going to say, oh, well, you're prejudiced, and oh, you're racist. Well, look, we can't let that get in the way of what's really happening.
Absolutely.
You got to ask these hard.
You really do. And you know that, and Cindy, you have to focus on, you know, all of us, right? Intersectionalities, which you alluded, because, you know, I'm a Black woman, I'm a gay woman, and I'm trans, or I'm Black, trans, and whatever.
Right.
So when you go and the intersectionality is critical as well, in people's lived lives and lived experiences. And especially Black women, you know, Black and, you know, whatever, you know, class and, or, you know, colorism, you know, all of those things, right? And so when you are assessing people, you want to, it isn't, you know, you can't, and we're now 2020, they said racism, right? The pandemic, the crisis and everything. So it is a crisis, because now we know that people want to be seen, heard, appreciated, and we're focusing on, you know, the systemic stuff that has been in this country for 400 years, right? Since at least since 1619 to current day. And it's on display everywhere we look, media, Facebook, I don't care where we go, any kind of medium. So, and we really, people, you know, the slave, forced slave labor for 200 plus years, Jim Crow, it is a uniqueness with Black people and, you know, and BIPOC too, right? So we center the book, you know, Native Americans, Indigenous people, people of color. So we're having the conversation, and all of that is a thread woven through eating disorders, right? And we're pivoting and shifting it, because we know so long, like you've alluded to in questions, that it's been the thin white woman. But that's a different conversation that we're having moving forward.
And and so much. I've got like all these thoughts that I want to follow up on, which is with
it is quite complex, you know. Slavery and the racism and Jim Crow, and none of these things have gone away. And a lot of times people will say, okay, there was slavery. It's unfortunate that happened, but let it go. It can't let that go. It's in our DNA. People think, you know, a Black person is a Black person. No, you've got to account for that very light skinned Black person. Mazella talked about colorism, and the very dark skinned Black person. Quiet as is kept, we treat our dark skinned Black people worse than we treat our light skinned Black people. That's colorism, okay? And Black women are dealing with these things daily in our groups. You know, oh, your hair is straight. Why are you wearing your hair straight? That means something. Oh, you're wearing your hair natural now. Natural. Why are you surprised? This is the way it grew out of my head, tightly curled. You know, we have all kinds of back and forth between us. Body size, body shape is a nice ample behind and ample bosom. Does that make you better, more desirable than the other person? Warnetta Mann, Dr. Mann talks about stereotypes and Jezebels and mammies and all of that in her chapter. And you just have to account for all of these things, the acculturative stress that we come upon every day, and you know, the subtleties of it. You know, subtle racism is it's a psychosocial stressor. It erodes health through chronically elevated cardiovascular responses. You know, you get things like, oh, well, you're so beautiful for a dark-skinned person. No, I'm beautiful because I look good.
Period.
No,
Right.
but that's what we, and then we have to, what, was that a little dig?
Right.
Insulted? No, why would she insult me? No, that she wouldn't have done that. But on the other hand, I'm left feeling this kind of way. And that back and forth will drive you stupid.
And
Yeah.
it takes up time and space and
Yes.
emotion and energy and takes
Yes.
you away from doing what you're
So
put here
true.
to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh God, I wish we could just sort of sit here and read the whole book out loud, because I just want everybody, no, I'm really serious. Like, and this book is not just for Black women, and I think we just need to make that really clear.
Oh, absolutely.
This book is for everybody.
That's right.
You know, we've talked a little bit about, you know, the Black woman with an eating disorder reading this and seeing herself in it, or even a Black man reading this and seeing himself in it, honestly. But also, you know, getting people into the profession. We do not have enough people of color who are working in the field of eating disorders.
Mhm.
Can we talk a little bit about how to change that?
Sure.
That's a big
We have
question, I
some
know.
ideas. We have some ideas.
Okay, go for it.
Well, you know, I think what you're doing today, Cindy, right? This is it, right? Representation, giving voices to providers or clinicians in the field, Black women, right? So I think also there's so many ways, because I think out of the box, right? I'm very a strategist. So, you know, linking with, you know, putting more, you know, with, you know, psychology, APA, social work organizations. But, you know, if we're going to walk and talk and chew gum at the same time, it's multiple approaches, right? So yes, we're going to do podcasts or, you know, these kind of platforms, but are you linking in your community as white people with power, because you still do. So are you
Right.
looking at the Black college in Durham? So our Central has a psychology department. Psychology people come out to be psychologists. So is there a conversation in terms of community organizing to develop a pipeline for UNC, right? And the MSW program there. So it's going to be whether psychology or social work, as these are prestigious programs. I think we have to have the conversations with the organizations, because Charlynn and I started the AAEDP for IDAP. That's our baby. We birthed that in 2016, and now it's about 24 members, and they're all people of color that's certified. They're either Black or they're people of color. They're not white, who have certifications or credentialing in working with BIPOC individuals.
Right.
So that's huge for IDEP, and we've gotten a lot of and you can just, I hope if you haven't looked at our page, would you please go out and look at it? There's a lot of information on how to get more people in the pipeline. Charlynn and I could serve as consultants to lots of organizations, creating ways to think out of the box. You know, and I know I had one of our mentees kind of worked at your center for a little bit, Cindy, so who came up under our auspices. So that was a Black woman. So, you know, there's a lot of wonderful ways and creative ways. We are very hopeful, and I can just have a whole long line of ways to get more people in the pipeline, and they're coming. You know, IADAP offers 10 scholarships, I think, to people of color to go to the conference, right? So there's money, because a lot of people, because of the wage gap and wealth gap in this country, a lot of people just don't have that extra income. So, and they come from Black and brown communities, BIPOC communities. So we were so proud. And Renfrew has offered scholarships. So there's a lot, and I'm sure you're doing things. And so that's, you know, and getting people interest and getting them motivated. And not only that, don't get them there and not provide sponsorship or support, right? Because like you were saying, it's critical to have supervisors and people who look like you, who have been there and can help you and support you.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you mentioned some of the schools. Of course, I graduated from Howard, Morehouse,
Yeah.
Clark in Atlanta. My daughter goes to Spelman, uh, Hampton.
Hampton. Yep.
That's right.
Now, and they have a research department. A&T is
That's right.
zooming up the ladder. Xavier has produced more Black doctors than just about anybody.
That's right.
So these places are here. Mazella mentioned some of the organizations and so forth, like EDP, which she said was our baby, and we have grown that and we've attracted so many persons into the fold. There's ABSI, they're still fully functioning and so forth. And there just any number of ways. I just wanted to underscore that there are so many schools out there, and they have psych departments, and they have research and so forth. And as you mentioned, it is a very rich experience when you can have these different people. And you shared with us previously about some of your African American mentors when you were in school. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like, that experience for you?
You had 4 supervisors, right?
Yeah, and it really wasn't until I read your book that I looked back and realized how fortunate I was. And I look at some of the clinical psychology programs now, and they're not getting that kind of supervision, those kind of relationships, those kinds of conversations.
Right.
That from the very beginning of your training, you have to question who you are and what your privileges are and how you got to this point.
Right.
When I think back to to Carolyn and to Enrico and to Sam Turner, it's like, wow, these guys, they gave me so much in terms of psychology, but they gave me more in terms of how I look at myself as part of the world.
Right.
That's what you have to do. This is about cultural competence. It's about cultural humility.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
saying, I do not know all that there is to know about everybody. And it's more than just saying, oh, I took a CEU last Thursday and now I'm culturally competent. No. This is a life long. This is a learning process.
Yes.
And it's cultural humility has to do with learning about those things about a person with an ethnic background that's most important to them. Right. You can't just assume that because this thing is important to me, oh, well, all Black people must, this is important for them as well. And that's just not the way it is.
That's so true.
You've got to learn how to learn about others. And like you said, Cynthia, you have to think about yourself and your own background. A lot of white people think, well, I don't have any ethnicity. Yeah, and we all have traditions.
Sure.
And,
right.
We all have those things in our families that mean things to us. So you have to learn a little bit more about yourself as well. It's not just the client or whomever. You have to learn about you.
So true. And I think
it's not easy stuff necessarily to learn.
No, it isn't.
You got to ask the hard questions and look at yourself in the mirror and really drill down to what your thoughts and feelings and biases are.
Because we all have them.
That's right. We all have them. And, and we have to, this is a walk that we're going to do it, be forced to do it, Cindy, or we're going to do it in community. And, in terms of, like you said, the caliber of supervisors, and you were fortunate to have supervisors of color. But, relationships are so important, like you alluded to. And this work is going to require shared power. And because we want to wipe eating disorders out, especially for all women, certainly for Black women, because they've been disenfranchised. So it's going to require shared power. It's going to require authentic leadership and authentic relationships and authentic allyship, right? Which is really critical. And that's where the cultural competency, the cultural humility comes in. It comes with us, linking together as authentic allies. And we're going to need the dominate, like when I think every student coming into psychology or social work, or this, Black student or brown student, they're also going to need white mentors and supervisors who are there for allyship and willing to lead them and sponsor them.
Yes.
And because that's part of the challenge and some of the unique challenges of Black women, because I work in with students who are the only Black woman or male or somebody in a lab
Right.
of all
Right.
whites, very privileged. Maybe the wealth gap is a little different, and so feeling cut off, silence, and invalidated with their lived experiences. So then they go and emotional eat or restrict, but most of them go and eat because of their feelings. And so people in power, and whether it's in degree granting academies, jobs, internships, and all of that, they if we're not going to have my thing is diversity, inclusion, and not just always diversity of phenotype, right? Diversity of thought.
Yes.
We can have some of the same people look like me, and we think very differently because we aren't monolithic, right? So you have, and we know there's a lot of conservative brown and Black people too, but we want progressive people to help people get out of their pain and move along and be flourishing and thriving.
Absolutely.
And the book talks about that too. I think
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Which brings me to sort of like the third pillar. And you already mentioned this. I used the word distrust and mistrust of the sort of the medical profession, and going back to the very beginning of our conversation, we talked about how so many people start their conversations, their talks with eating disorders don't discriminate, blah, blah, blah. And then you look at the demographic table in a paper, and it says something like, 98.9% white, and then, 0.5 other, right? And, and how can we actually say that the work we're doing represents how eating disorders actually live in the world? And I admit guilt here, like in the psychiatric genetics field, over 90% of the samples we have are from European ancestry populations. And luckily at the PGC, the Psychiatric Genomics Consortium, there is a huge push right now to diversify participation. But we still run into that hesitancy, especially with genetic research in communities of color.
Right.
And I would love to just talk about that a little bit, about how we can help. I mean, it's always going to be there because you said that history runs so deep for so many people.
Right.
How can we address that in the here and now?
Well, that's a really good question, and I'm not sure that I have the answer to it. I mean, because when it comes to medical research, Black people have some very good reasons for being cautious. We've mentioned the Tuskegee experience. Mazella talked about Henrietta Lacks, and then there was Dr. Sims, J. Marion Sims, who did 30 operations on that one young person with no anesthesia. Mazella said we are thought to the pain doesn't really affect us, Black people, in the same ways that it does everyone else. And while you may not be planning research that's gonna be intrusive, still, people are concerned. They don't know. They want to know what is going to be done with this data once you get it. People are cautious. What I can suggest, that the thing that pops into my mind is what we've already discussed, is linking with these institutions, these HBCUs. There are 107 of them, and or 103, somewhere around there, and many of them have research departments. Many of them are linked to hospitals. Many of them have psychology departments, and when you're creating a pipeline, perhaps those are some of the relationships that you want to foster, that you want to link with some of those institutions. I just don't, I really don't have a
Right.
definitive answer. Who do you think, Ms. Amy?
I agree with you. I think you have to link with the universities and research. And I also think, just human beings, right? Let's relate, right?
Mhm.
Because, one thing about the Black community, and I could talk about my many, many years of living as a Black woman, and I'm from the South, but I lived in New England for a long time,
Right.
is that we respect and trust certain people, right? So you have, and in order to work in a Black community, 98% of Black people, we're 42 million in this country, and most of the Black folks are from the South. Even at 42 million, there's about 55% of the 42 million Blacks live in the South. And 98% of the 42 million are faith. There's some kind of spiritual identity.
Right.
So, and that's for rightfully so. We know that it was because of coping and hope that I can have a better day, and they're still doing the same thing. So you have to, cultivate relationships with clergy, with Lincoln Community Mental Health, which is in Durham. So I'll just use that one because I know. Because people respect those they have been in that community for 40 plus years. They respect those individuals there. They respect clergy, people who advocate on behalf of justice. They respect. I mean, because it's not going to be any difference than what is it like. Look at look at the Black, brown and Black communities about the vaccine, right?
Right.
And this could save your life, and and
Exactly.
we're dying at a higher rate than
Yes.
anybody, and we'll
Yes.
still have some mistrust about that vaccine. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be any different. And the thing is, we do want to collaborate and cooperate with research. We do want to, expand our life chances and all these things. But we want to trust the people to do that.
To do
So,
it.
and I work at Duke, biggest research, one of the big 10, like all my taxpayers' dollars, millions, zillions of dollars going to Duke for research, right? Because we know it's our tax dollars. But the thing is, Duke has a reputation. They have certain people they know. And now more and more we know, if you want to have people in your studies, you have to show the representation on your team.
On the team. Yep.
That's exactly true. And that's why this notion of authentic allyship that Mazella spoke about is so very important. And that's why we appreciate you as an authentic ally providing this platform for
So
us to
true.
come and talk about these things. We really do appreciate you.
Well, that goes both ways, ladies.
Thank you, Cindy.
Like I told you, when I first saw this book, I said, this field has needed this for so long. And for all of those women and men and people of all genders with eating disorders, your book is a godsend. And for people who are thinking about going into this field to help other people with eating disorders, read this book. I'm going to hold it up one more time because it's also my favorite color. So like anything that's purple.
Oh, mine too.
Royalty women. Yes.
Purple people.
And Cindy, I have to say, we don't take it lightly, because you are held in high esteem in the eating disorders world. You have always been. I remember you 20 years ago. I remember when you started out and you would do plenaries and sessions at Renfrew and some things. I saw you at UNC, and I was like, she is someone to be and at that time, and I have to say, you've gotten more softer and less scientific, Cindy.
Oh,
You have evolved.
Myself. I feel more comfortable being me, right?
Because you were such a scientist and so together. And so, people just, when you spoke at conferences, there was 800 people at Renfrew. Nobody missed your plenary or whatever. They were there.
I don't miss you.
You were just, and it was about, because all of us therapists, we touchy feel it, and you were so about the business of research. So, and so we appreciate and admire that skill and strength and that ability, because everybody doesn't have it. And you have grown your empire and your kingdom in a way that people respect and appreciate, what you do. So, Charlynn and I was just happy because I said, I go way back with Cindy now when she was in those research days, and I don't even know if I know how to talk to Cindy back then. So we really appreciate you. And I would always say Dr. Bulik.
Oh,
Bulik.
good
I would
heavens.
say, because I was like, this is like, she is real deal.
Oh my God.
And so we feel like we've
You're
come.
making me blush.
Well, you should, because we need
Credit
all of
where
the
it's
glory.
due.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. We're speaking the truth.
Thank
And
you.
so this is a full circle that you would have both of us, and that we come at this time with this book. So I just hope, we touch so many people, people who are on the fence, thinking about it, need treatment, want to become a therapist, want to have the more conversation, that they can reach out to you, reach out to us through this modem and, vehicle, and that we are available.
Indeed,
Wonderful.
indeed.
Charlynn, any last words from you?
Well, yes, I would like our listeners to understand that identity really is at the heart of eating disorders, and that the unique part of treating Black women with eating disorders is in addressing race and racism and identity issues. You can't just overlook something or negate something because you think, I don't know, you're fearful of talking about it. It may be central. You may be overlooking something that is quite relevant in terms of eating disorders treatment for these persons. So ask the hard questions.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mazella, last words from you?
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
Oh, okay, well, let me echo that.
All right, everybody hold up their copy.
Right, yes.
Purple.
So look for the purple book, Treating Black Women with Eating Disorders. It's available on Amazon.
It is.
And
And Cindy, if they want to go through the publisher, we have an ADC, what we call author discount code, right? And you can get 20 to 30% off.
That's right.
Through the publisher.
That's right.
Okay, so how do they do that? Give us more instructions so we can.
Just go to the website,
Okay.
the Taylor and Frank, the book, the Rutledge web, where they sell books, but go through the publisher, and then ADC, the discount is going to pop up automatically.
Mhm.
So
Perfect.
pull that up
Perfect.
Okay.
Really important piece. And while you're up on the internet, take a look at everything about the EDGI study as well, EDGI.org. And we're on all the different types of social media at EDGI study. And everything is in both English and Spanish, so you can choose which one of those languages you would prefer. And everybody, I just want to tell you what a pleasure it was for me today to have this conversation with Charlynn and Mazella, and to thank them for their amazing gift to the eating disorders world. Thank you both so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate you.
Appreciate all that you do.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Bye-bye all.
Take care. Bye-bye.